Hello everyone and welcome back to Superboy Beyond, and we have another Beyond commentary for you today. We are returning to George Reeves' Adventures of Superman, and we have Lou Koza again with us, and because you're the George Reeves historian,
how are you guys doing?
It'd be fun.
How you guys doing? Thank you for having me on your show.
Hey, we always love having you on, Lou.
Good,
absolutely.
Good. Okay, so how do you want to start? 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, I'll just, for anyone that's watching,
on 1, 2, 3, or
I'll count us in with a 3, 2, 1 play, and just hit play when I say play.
Okay.
Yeah, but for anyone watching for the first time, you're not going to see the actual episode. You'll see some very heavily filtered version, probably up in the middle somewhere. I'll
right over
figure out a place for it. I'll probably put it between Lou and I just to try and make it work. But so as long as you hit play when we do, we'll be fine. I'll count you in with a 3, 2, 1 play, and we'll get going. So get ready. This is season 1, episode 2. In 3, 2, 1, play. Here's that classic intro.
Love it.
Yep.
I just want to run into the kitchen and grab a bowl of Kellogg's cornflakes. Interesting. You see that train, that overhead shot?
Right.
I don't think I've ever seen that in the intro, unless it just went over my head. But I don't ever recall it as part of the initial intro.
Maybe it's something that they changed early on. It might only be in the first few episodes or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And look at George there, standing in his glory. He was the perfect Superman for the 50s.
Oh, well, definitely.
It almost seems he was destined for it. It really does. There are just things, in his past films, just little subtleties or things in his life that just.
And now George Reeves is doing voiceover, which is really, really great voiceover. I think he's doing a good job with it. You can see the shadow on the backdrop there, though.
Yeah.
As Aunt Louisa walked in front, you could just see her casting a shadow on the sky behind her.
Yeah. I never noticed it as a kid, but because fans brought it up in the past. But it's a beautiful scene.
Absolutely. It is strange how they've got George doing the voiceover here, but it's supposed to be being read from Jimmy's perspective. It's his letter or whatever. So it's like, why not get Jimmy to do it?
Well, I think because it was the second episode, and there's still a time lag before, Clark Kent is brought into the episode.
Maybe they just wanted to use George while they could.
Yeah. And he's actually speaking really eloquently.
Oh, he's doing great.
Yeah, that's definitely his theater training on that.
It's good as well, though, because just, hearing George's voice, it almost makes me wish that he'd had like a career doing voiceover for like documentaries or something. Like,
absolutely.
I'd love to watch a nature documentary, like a David Attenborough type thing with George Reeves narrating. I think he'd be
definitely. That would be great. He had lots of talent. When I first heard that, I was like, now I just read on IMDb.com that the voice of that was Morty Prickett, Okay, and she's actually credited at the end of the show, but for years, it was kind of confusing because she wasn't in the episode. But now somebody must have explored that and found that she did the voice of the parrot again,
Wow.
or the voice of that mystery voice.
Yeah, I watched this episode earlier in the week, so I know the twist coming, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now,
It's
here's
funny.
a
I
guy.
can imagine as a kid it would creep you out, that voice, but
Oh,
I don't know. As an adult, it just makes me laugh. It reminds me of Mr. Bill.
And as the show, continues, you hear it again, and it leads you to wonder, how is that going to, how's it going to
How's that going
resolve?
to pay off?
Yeah, how's it going to pay off? But that actor that just went by, William Chalet, he's often in a lot of the bad guy movies. He's been in like the movie serials, and he turns up here and there, and when you see him, you it's distinctive. Who it is.
He's got a great look. Like, you can tell why he plays roles like that.
Sarah Paddon, who plays Aunt Louisa, she started in films in 1926, and she always played like a storekeeper. She's one of the many wonderful character actors, in Hollywood. And she started in Hollywood around 1926.
Right.
She usually played like somebody's mother or a storekeeper or a landlady.
I do think she does a good job.
She's terrific.
You can tell there's something playing on her mind, like there's something bothering her. And she's keeping it very subtle. Like, she's doing it with just like a look off camera every now and then. And it's
right. But this was odd. When I first saw where she waved off Alice. By the way, that room they're in is, I'm pretty sure, the same room used in the one with Phyllis Coates, where she goes to the motel.
Okay.
I'm forgetting the name of the episode right now.
Oh, is it Night of Terror?
A Night of Terror, yeah.
Yeah. Love that episode. It's a great one. I bet they just redressed these sets all the time. Just swap out the ornaments. People will buy it as a whole new building.
Love the music.
I love that shot of the lighthouse.
Yes.
Now, I'm guessing that was just stock footage that was done for something else.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I couldn't see them going to the trouble of building a miniature or whatever.
No, that's bought. And I just love this kitchen, the kitchen with the way the stairs are. But there's Jack Larson, very inquisitive. He sold it. He sold the fear right away. And again, this is the second episode.
Yeah. Although I'm guessing it wasn't shot to be the second episode, just because I can't see them doing that on purpose.
No, I don't think it was filmed in its early on. If you go to Mike Hade's Flights of Fantasy book, I'm pretty sure it explains the sequence. And the top of that lighthouse looked different from the lighthouse that was in the stock photo. Now, here's a scene that just blows me away. Watch.
I love the moody lighting. Oh.
Right there. That knife being thrown.
Did they actually have someone throw that knife, or was it on like a wire?
That's a good question.
Because I know that back then they didn't worry about putting their actors in danger.
Yeah.
I know there's a something from this episode in particular, also with Jack Larson, where it's like, yeah, they clearly weren't too concerned about him.
Yeah. When I first met him in 1996, I had asked him about things like that. You know, the knife, being thrown. It's also thrown at him in the episode "The Lady in Black," and then there's a sword in the Jolly Roger that gets hit across Superman's chest, and it flings around and hits Jack. You could see it in that episode. So with those little things, I had asked him about those kind of things, and all he could say was that they were subjected to dangers on the show, and they just had to be very careful. But he said he put his trust in Cy Simonson, the special effects guy. But Cy Simonson wasn't on board yet. Well, he may have been if this episode was filmed later in the season, because he came in later on.
We'll have to look on the end credits, because I'm sure his name will be there if he was.
Right. And this is Aileen Roberts. And she got her start in Hollywood in 1941. She won a contest, for the most charming child, in Tampa. She's from Birmingham, Alabama, but she won this contest as the most charming child, and she won $2,000 plus a contract with Warner Brothers. So that's how she got her start in Hollywood. As she was 12 years old at the time.
Wow.
And she's just a beauty.
Yeah.
Now watch this face. The kiss goodbye. Now you're like, okay, oh boy.
Something is up, yeah. I have heard one thing about, is it Alice, the housekeeper, her name?
Yes.
Yeah, Alice. I've heard that there's a rumor that the reason she doesn't speak isn't just because they don't want her to tell all the information to Jimmy up front. I've heard that it's also because they wouldn't have to pay her quite as much if she never actually said anything.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't believe that. Okay,
no?
I think it was just in the script. Okay,
fair enough.
I don't think it had anything to do with paying her or not. That does happen, but not with a role like this. Okay.
Because if she could speak, she would just tell Jimmy the entire thing the moment he arrives, wouldn't he? So
that's right. So here we now have Clark. By the way, listening to this, especially with his voice, it seems that this episode, what we're watching here, is what they call time compressed. Okay, because his voice is always a little faster. Now look at this. Okay, that was an odd flight, wasn't it? The way that looked.
Yeah, and you could see the thing coming out of his feet where he was like on. Yeah,
I think Kirk Hastings, a longtime fan of the show, he recently explained to me that might have been a cutout and on a stick. Okay, that they were able to place in front of a screen. Okay, and so I think he's nailed it. What that was, but it's not a very good.
Not the best flying shot in the show.
No, not the best flying shot.
And what you were saying about the time being slightly compressed, I think that's just because it's the British version of the Blu-ray. It's where they've converted it from NTSC to PAL, and it does make it ever so slightly faster. I've heard people comment on that before. I don't know why Warner Brothers didn't have better quality control about stuff like that, but yeah, that's something I've heard a few times.
Well, what I've been told, and it was Michael J. Hayde, the author of Flights of Fantasy, but he had explained it actually on a discussion board about time compression, that they would try to speed up the shows a little bit so that they can get a little bit more commercial time in.
Huh.
Okay, and I think that's what this is, because it's kind of distinct in his voice. The pitch is a little higher,
Yeah,
and it seems a little quicker.
maybe it is.
Hmm.
This version that I've upscaled slightly to make it look a little bit clearer. Like the only times the shots don't quite work is like shots like this that are slightly out of focus, and there's some shots later where they put some fog over it, but it's just like a camera
Right.
trick.
Yes,
And it pretty much impossible to clean that up, unfortunately.
absolutely. No, it looks great with the fog the way it is. But he's a confident Clark Kent.
Yeah. Something we wouldn't really see again until maybe Lois and Clark in the 90s.
Right.
Because pretty much even like John Newton, who was considerably less nerdy than Gerard Christopher's Clark, he still didn't have the confidence that George Reeves
Right.
did. Like, you can buy George Reeves as an active like reporter,
Yes.
investigating and all that.
Now, we just saw Steve Carr. Okay, he's been in a number of the the first season episodes, and he was the brother of the director Tommy Carr. And I'm sure you've heard that before.
I've heard the name.
And I had asked Jack Larson why he had never returned after the first season, and he explained to me that there were complaints of nepotism. Okay, meaning that other actors were claiming he was getting, the roles, more parts, because I think he appeared in 12 episodes of the first season. Plus, he had like background dialogue, and so
I can understand why they'd have a problem with it if he was getting parts that somebody else could quite easily have done, like parts that he wasn't necessarily the best person for. I can understand that. But I mean, that's how Hollywood works, though, isn't it? Nepotism is everywhere in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right.
They say it's it's not what you know, it's who you know in that business, isn't it?
That's right.
And it's still happening. They still do good work, though.
Yeah, but they people feeling he was being favored, and then years later, I had Jack had told me years later, a little bit more that him and the two brothers had a falling out. I don't know if they ever reconciled, but Tommy Carr died in 1991. I don't know when Steve Carr passed away. I hadn't looked it up, but would have been great to have scored an interview with him.
I know that apparently Jack Larson really did not appreciate all the water scenes that he would have, because he said he didn't know if it was one of the producers that just had an obsession with water. I guess it's just because it's so dynamic, as they're moving around, they're fighting, it just looks good on camera.
It adds to the the danger of the story. And he grew to dislike having to be subjected to it.
Yeah, he it would be freezing then for a low budget TV show. They're not going to pump in warm water, are they? So
no.
And on the commentary on the DVD, I know that they said once this gate went down, it was really, really difficult to get it back up again. So he was actually trapped in there for quite a while, like several hours.
Yeah.
In freezing cold water for like 2 hours or something.
How could anybody have gotten that gate, carved into the side of the cave? But okay.
Suspend our disbelief for that one.
Yeah, we'll give it a score.
Yeah.
I don't know. It made me laugh on that when I was watching the DVD with that commentary, just purely because later on there's a scene where George bends the bars open. So why couldn't Jack just do that, step out, and then close them behind him?
Yeah. But that's a stunning scene, and it'll be coming up very soon.
Yeah. So this is one of the Carr brothers, you said?
This is a great scene too,
Yeah.
right? When
Which car is that? Is that
off.
Tommy car or the other one? Steve
No,
car?
that's Steve Carr.
That's Steve. I do think he does a good job, you know.
He sells this. Superman takes off. Here it is.
Looking up into the sky.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Just sells it.
Yeah, you got to credit the director for that.
Definitely.
Whoop.
Yeah. So, you know, if the bars can be bent that easily, I don't see why he
Hey, that's
couldn't just get
Superman.
out. Yeah. I'm guessing they're the sort of material where they could bend
Oh,
them
wait,
back
you're
again
saying
after.
when he... Oh, I'm
When
sorry.
Jack was stuck there, yeah.
Jack was stuck there. So then that can't be a true story.
Maybe not. The guy that did the commentary on the DVD said it was. So
Who was the commentator? Do you remember?
I can check. Let's see. Right.
Oh, by the way, did you see the way Superman carried Jimmy Olsen?
I missed it.
In the Dean Cain episode that Jack appeared in, he carried him the exact same way.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, the commentary on the DVD was Gary H. Grossman. I don't actually know.
Well, Gary's a solid guy. He's good. So I'd like to
I think
find
he
out
said that the story was told to him by Larson, so I assume it's right.
Food for the fishes. You could hear that little speed in the voice.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those episodes that, as you say, has been shortened slightly by speeding it up. But I do know that the PAL version of the DVD does a similar thing. So maybe it's like both things working together for this one.
Okay.
Because you're right. I'm hearing it now. His voice is ever so slightly higher pitched.
Watch his head. Boop. You hear it? You hear his voice?
Mm.
Here she is. Effie Lard. Colette Morlock, very good friend of mine. She's wonderful in writing little mini biographies of all of these actresses. And one of her favorites is Effie Lard. And if you can go to, if you care to learn more about Effie Lard, you can go to the Adventures Continue website and look for the link of Ladies of the Adventures of Superman. She's great. This makes the whole episode, this whole scene.
Yeah, just seeing her glee at holding them up with a gun, like it's just
the
way she says, like she's always wanted to hold, like.
But her admiration for Superman, and then.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a great line in a moment.
And watch Clark Kent during that.
Yeah, he quickly changes the subject or something, doesn't he? The way he turns away and hands on his glasses, just great.
Look at beautiful Alice. See, now Alice should have ran by her side, by Effie Lard, the real Mrs. Carmody.
Yeah.
Or Mrs. Horn, he called her.
Oh. And here's that voice.
don't think her name was Mrs. Horn. He called her Mrs. Horn, right?
I think so.
Maybe I'm just.
I
But
just
there
love
you
that
go.
the episode
There's,
ends with a laugh.
Morty Prickett, her voice or her cackle, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Great
It's a
episode.
great episode.
Say again?
Jimmy. It's a great episode. I think Jimmy Olsen is fantastic. Jack Larson, rather, is great as Jimmy in it. I love the fact that it ends with a lighter-hearted moment. You know, an actual
Absolutely.
laugh moment.
Yeah.
Because it's quite a creepy episode through a lot of it. Like,
Yeah,
the lighting is very moody. It's
Yeah, Chris is, he's off the rails, and he seems devious, and you don't know why throughout the whole episode. Okay, until Superman starts piecing it all together.
You just think that he's got an attitude problem.
Nate Barringer.
Oh, they had it, did they?
In the credits, it had the name Nate Barringer, I think it was, something to that effect. But he's the Nate that the Coast Guard captain is, calling out to. Okay, set the course for Moose Island, Nate, or something, to that effect. So that was great.
Nice little reference,
Yeah, a little insight there.
Yeah, I like when they do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say on this episode, Chris?
No, I'm just enjoying everything.
Chris, come on, say something.
Well, this is one of the few episodes that's really Jimmy centric. Throughout the 6 seasons that this show had, and this is so great because you don't get bumbling Jimmy. You don't get goofy Jimmy. You get Jimmy the way he's supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah. Scared shitless Jimmy. Yeah. No, it's a great episode, and I love the fact that even if it wasn't originally intended to be episode 2, I just love the fact that the second episode of this show focuses so much on Jimmy Olsen.
Right.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, Superman is one of those characters who's, his supporting characters are some of the best in all of comic books. So it's always nice when they get sort of the spotlight for an episode.
Yeah.
Especially early on.
Yeah.
And I know that there's an interesting story that comic book artist John Byrne likes to tell about this story. When he was a kid, when he first moved to Canada from the UK, and this was on, his parents didn't want him to watch it because it was called The Haunted Lighthouse. Because there was an episode of Jungle Jim that was on that was about ghosts, and he was scared shitless.
So
John Byrne is one of my all-time favorites. He's superb. In his craft and his knowledge of the comic book characters, whether they're DC or Marvel or and as you know, he started with Charlton Comics, and I just was blown away by him when I first saw. I think it was Avengers 164, and I opened up that cover and saw Wonder Man sitting in that chair, and it was just like, wow. Okay. Yeah. And John Byrne, and when he did the Superman, I couldn't have been any happier.
Yeah, his reboot of Superman in the 80s was just, I think that's my favorite retelling of the origin. Other than maybe there's a Jeff Johns story from a little bit later called Secret Origin that I like. But John Byrne is just fantastic.
Unbelievable. And I would love for him to, do a last time graphic novel, but I would love to see him do it for the Fantastic Four. He had a great run. That would be a great, graphic novel. Love to see it, but he's pretty much retired, and he did a lot of work. I mean, he did he did quantity and he did quality.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
And every writer as well does have their off days. I know there's some works of his that are less beloved than others, but I think for the most part, John Byrne's seen as one of those top writers from comic book history. You know,
yeah.
I don't think anyone can argue that he didn't make an impact. That's for damn sure.
Well, you do see those little influence in the movies. You see it in the Avenger movies. You see it in, the Superman movies. Well, how about what was it? The Lois and Clark. Right off the bat was that Jonathan Kent was alive during the Superman, the adult years, and that was John Byrne that brought Jonathan Kent back into the fold, and then it was
Also,
repeated. Well,
Luther as well in that series. That
yes,
they very much pulled from the John Byrne CEO style Luther, and
yes,
that's continued ever since. I think every version of Luther since then has had an element of that.
Right,
Yeah.
right, absolutely, yeah. You see his influence, all the time, and it mostly goes over most people's heads. But I think the John Byrne, you know, the 50,000 fans of John Byrne, if they're still out there, okay, because he always said he always felt he knew he had 50,000 fans. And if they're still out there and still tuned in, then they'll know. They'll know when they see that John Byrne touch. So, but yeah,
definitely.
this was a great episode to do. Thank you.
Yep. Unless either of you have anything else to say on this episode, we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Sweet. Thank you all so much for watching. What did you think of this episode? Let us know in the comments. If anything we've talked about here is something you would like to, add to with your comment, let us know. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.